Gaijin Entertainment presents a new show, Shooting Range. You're watching Shooting Range, a weekly show for all the tankers and airmen in War Thunder. In this episode, Parallax, a deadly optical illusion. Pages of History, F4U Corsair. Gaijin Hotline, we're answering questions that you left in the comments. Tactics and Strategy, how to win a tank duel. Imagine, it's the start of a game, you're in an M4A3 and you've decided not to rush to the nearest point. Instead, you're slowly creeping along the map border trying to set up a surprise attack. But it turns out other players had a similar idea. You run into an enemy. Let's say a Tiger P. Frontal attack is suicide, and he has spotted us already, so flanking is out of question. We have to act. What do we do? The most reliable solution in this situation is to blow his tracks off with a well-placed shot and then back out to fight the enemy later on our own terms. Alternatively, you could try to use this chance to go around the immobilized tank to attack it from the rear, but we do not recommend it. This maneuver is very risky and is likely to get you destroyed. What if you can run and there's another vehicle threatening your flank? You'll have to bite the bullet. Keep rotating your turret and angle your hull armor. Our goal here is to provoke the Tiger, force the player to make a hasty shot. If you're still alive afterwards, dash forward and wreck his gun. Don't rush it, aim carefully. You basically get a free shot while the cannon is reloading. After his gun is down, move over to his side. The enemy won't be able to return fire since any movement on his part will cancel a repair action. The Tiger is in your hands. It's time to finish it. Don't bother trying to pull a flashy one-shot frag. It is usually better to simply disable crew members and critical modules first. Alright, another duel. This time we're fighting an IS-1. Good news, we can reliably penetrate this enemy's frontal armor with our trusty APHE rounds. It means we can be a lot more aggressive. Let's go to close quarters while angling your armor, wait for a shot, and then blow the enemy to smithereens. Of course, no two battles are alike. You have to assess the situation, analyze strengths and weaknesses of both vehicles every time you get into a fight. But you'll have easier time fighting enemies one-on-one if you follow this simple advice. If you're an underdog, get out. If you can't get away, force your opponent to waste a shot and then break his gun. Then finish him by taking out his crew members and damaging critical modules. Now that we've won our duel, let's soar into the skies where one tricky optical illusion can quickly turn your day sour. You probably know that if you're using the third-person view and trying to shoot something right in front of the plane, you have to aim a bit higher than the target in order to actually hit it. If you don't do it, bullets go wide off the mark, even if the enemy aircraft is clearly in your crosshairs. What's weird is that there's no such problem while using the cockpit view. That's all because of a curious phenomenon called parallax. Parallax is a displacement of difference in the apparent position of an object viewed along two different lines of sight. This might sound complicated, but in fact, it is a very simple thing. Take a look. That's a plane. The target is right in front of us. If the pilot is shooting from the cockpit, everything is in order. The enemy goes down. But when we use the third-person view, we're positioned well above and behind the aircraft, like a fly following the plane. Once again, it looks like the enemy is in the palm of our hand, but the camera and guns are situated along different lines of sight. As a result, it only seems as if the enemy is right in our sights. In reality, his aircraft is here. We have to take the parallax error into account and aim higher, or switch to view mode with V. Alright, we got him. And in a few seconds, we'll tell you about one of the most fascinating warplanes of the Second World War. Keep watching. It all started in 1938. The Navy wanted a new aircraft to take the place of F-4F Wildcat. They signed a contract with Chance Vaught, who were then working on a promising prototype. Vaught decided to create something absolutely new and went all in. The construction of a new plane involved innovative and costly spot welding, slotted flaps, fully retractable gear, you name it. But the main bargaining chip was an experimental Pratt & Whitney double-WASP twin-row 18-cylinder radial engine. With its 18 and 50 horsepower, it was a real beast. An untamed one. In 1938, it was the first of its kind. To make the matters worse, the Navy wanted a carrier-based aircraft, which meant that the new plane had to be extra tough with folding wings and a considerable combat radius. The stakes were high, the risks were even higher. The Navy were in for a big shock. What they saw was, at a time, the biggest and the heaviest fighter in the world, with a propeller of 13 feet and 4 inches, inverted gull wings, and a heavy nose. A bit of context. Those were the days when everybody looked up to Messerschmitts with their sleek aerodynamic forms. The new aircraft was nothing like it. It was hard to believe that the hulking abomination belonged in the skies, but the naysayers couldn't be more wrong. The Corsair prototype was so fast that during the maiden flight, its aileron tribs came off, almost as if the engineers hadn't expected it to be that crazy fast. 405 miles an hour in 1940. It was something else. There was one small problem though. It turned out that new fighters were very difficult to land on a carrier. Navy pilots even started to call it a bent-wing widowmaker. After a while, Corsairs were given to Marine Corps, who needed a new fighter and usually flew from land bases. Problem solved. And that's where these warplanes started to shine. The reign of Japanese pilots was over. The F4U could outperform a Zero in every aspect except turn rate and rate of climb. Not to mention the fact that even a short burst from its heavy machine guns could tear unprotected Japanese aircraft to pieces. Yes, the United States' highest-scoring air ace was Richard Bong, who was flying Lockheed P-38 Lightning. But some sources say that Corsairs could boast an impressive 11-to-1 kill ratio. 11-to-1. These numbers are sometimes disputed, but we know, for instance, that Gregory Boyington, who was the CEO of the legendary Black Ship Fighter Squadron and flew F4U, shot 14 enemy fighter planes in 32 days of his squadron's first tour of combat duty, and his record only continued to climb. Soon the war was over, but Corsair soldiered on. The fighter planes produced in the middle of the century were expected to endure around 10 years of active service. But bent-wing eliminators kept on flying. The last of them were decommissioned in the late 70s and early 80s. You can run into them even now at races and air shows. In the end, the first fighter plane with an 18-cylinder radial engine outlived all of its peers. Finally, we get to the last part of today's episode, Hotline, in which we'll be answering questions that you've been asking via YouTube comments. Strictly speaking, it's not the most serious-minded section of the show. If you want answers to be given with solemn faces, feel free to appeal to the official forums. Here, we'll have a more lighthearted discussion of the big questions of War Thunder. We'll hope you like it. Benny O'Connor writes, I love this game, but I'm worried all these rocket vehicles are going to make it impossible for us who just like World War II vehicles to play. Don't worry, Benny, we tested it thoroughly, and it all comes down to this. In our game, it is very hard to consistently hit your enemies with ATGMs, even when driving a vehicle with an advanced guidance system, where you just have to keep the target in your sights. It's not a doomsday weapon, and real-life weapon designers agree. Conventional tank projectiles are still a thing after all. Another one from Karl Meister. Gaijin, you know what would be nice? A huge map that we could use in its entirety. It can be done, and to an extent we've already done it when we introduced a new game mode called Enduring Confrontation. You can try it with your plane in simulator battles, for example. But don't forget that at its core, War Thunder is a game that is meant to be played in relatively short sessions, and in a way that allows every player to shine and contribute to the success of the team. Smaller maps just work better in this regard. Germany needs more top-tier jets, and where are new Leopards? The new patch will introduce quite a few German vehicles, and we're happy to announce that we're planning to release a new Leopard later along the way. And the last question comes from a player with a username that is really hard to pronounce. See for yourself. Gaijin, P40, B, and C, where are they? Whoa, calm down. Can't say much right now, but it is very likely that we will see both of these vehicles in game sooner or later. Hope you're happy. That's it for the day, but feel free to write your questions in the comments below. We read them all, and you might see some of them in the next episode. See you next week at our shooting range, every Thursday on the official War Thunder channel.